Hey friends, my name is Colin and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do something just a little bit different today and talk about an episode of My 600 Pound Life. This season of My 600 Pound Life so far has been something.
Do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Delete that freaking app.
I am very terrified of falling.
I think this interview's over.
What the heck?
Titties weigh 150 pounds apiece.
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm not just as entertained by the train wrecks as I am the actual success stories. This is a TLC reality show. I'm under no illusion about what we're here for. But I'll be totally honest, as much as I love watching the show, their production value has never been the best, and I feel like it's only gone more downhill over the years. There have been some fun and interesting moments in season 12 so far, but most of the episodes have felt like a complete waste of time. Not just for people's lack of success, that's not atypical for this show. I mean, it's just been boring. It's definitely had its wild moments, sure, but I mean, one was basically a 2-hour road trip to nowhere. Another was a guy literally changing nothing and making zero effort for the entire episode, and not even in an entertaining way, as bad as that sounds.
He continued down the same path, and he's still pretty much the same weight he was the first time he came to see me.
Go girl, give us nothing. But in the midst of the entertainment equivalent of watching paint dry, there was one bright spot this season, and that's a woman named Rose. Let me just say also, I'm gonna try to keep the clips kind of light in this video because I know how TLC is, even in cases of fair use. Is it not bad enough they keep giving me ads for prep on Discovery Plus? It's hard not to take that as a microaggression. Upon first meeting, I wasn't so sure about Rose.
So how motivated you are to change your eating habit?
I'm very motivated. Just like I told him, if you told me there's a pile of dog crap there and you told me that's going to help me to lose weight, if I ate that dog crap for a month, bend over and start eating it, that's what I would do.
She came across as a person who talks a big game at the beginning of the episode, but then the rest is just a complete disappointment. It wouldn't have been much of a shock for this season especially. There have been some success stories, but even those came along with a lot of lying and excuses. But it didn't take long for me to just fall in love with Rose.
Russell looks at me and he says, "Do you love me?" I said, "You know I do." I said, "You're the love of my life." He said, "Here, I want you to marry me." And I just started bawling.
As someone from the South, one of my favorite genres of people are wily Southern ladies who can only accurately be described as a character. If you've watched any 1,000 Pound Sisters, you know what I'm talking about. People who don't even really need much scripting or producer meddling because they're just instantly so funny and likable.
You need more milk. That's osteoporosis, Dad.
I think that's one of the reasons Rose's episode and shows like 1,000 Pound Sisters succeed, while shows like 1,000 Pound Best Friends feel so lackluster. There's a sense that Rose is just so genuine.
Baby, you're home.
All right, don't break my neck.
Oh, I ain't going to. I wouldn't be able to give you kisses then and hugs.
Rose's personality wasn't the only reason I had hope for her. There was also something so encouraging about the way she talked about her life and her weight loss journey.
But my insides are jumping so much with joy. I can't even explain or describe what kind of a life changer this is going to be for me.
She clearly had so much hope and drive from the start. Not only did Rose have faith in herself, but her family did too. They were her primary motivator, and they all helped each other so much without any complaint. Even the little grandkids would do Rose's exercises with her and encourage her. I teared up so much in this episode. I needed Glitter and Laser's crying music. And yeah, I do think it's pretty much impossible to get to Rose's weight without enablers because of her poor mobility, but it was clear a lot of her family members struggle with their weight as well. So I can kind of understand how difficult it might be to try to regulate Rose when they might be having trouble regulating themselves. And there's also this emphasis on respecting your elders, especially in the South. And like, if Rose were my grandma, I don't know, I'd find it hard to not give her anything she asked for. A sandwich, a cookie, a kidney. I've been watching and rewatching this show for quite some time now, so it would be fair to say I'm often disillusioned with patients who seem promising from the start, but I really felt and hoped that Rose was going to be different. A lot of times when Dr. Now asks people about their eating habits, they hedge and downplay it or even just straight up lie. But Rose was literally like the most honest person I've seen so far.
What do you do all day?
All day I sit and I eat. I binge eat.
How refreshing. It's always so strange to me that people will try to lie to Dr. Now because, well, you got to 600 pounds somehow. And a medical doctor will certainly be able to tell you exactly how. A lot of patients come to Dr. Now expecting a weight loss miracle, but Rose also showed she knew exactly what she was there for.
I have the willpower. Now I have to have the knowledge. The knowledge is going to come from you. The willpower is going to come from me.
At this point, I'm begging my TV screen to give me a success story. I just like her so much, and up until now, she seemed to be nothing but honest and straightforward. Rose strikes me as a very non-serious person in the way she speaks.
And I'm not getting up early at all. Oh, wait a minute, I have to though, don't I?
But I think that's just because she's naturally a funny and lighthearted person. So no matter how serious she takes her situation, she kind of comes across as wishy-washy. Even Dr. Now had that impression.
Rose certainly seems like a handful. I just hope there is some sincerity in what she says.
But actions speak louder than words, and the scale don't lie. Dr. Now wanted her to lose 50 pounds after her first appointment, and she lost 67.
You did it, Mama. You did it, Mama. You did it.
That being said, not every journey is a straight line, and Rose did admit to slipping up on her diet from time to time. Whenever she went back for another visit to Dr. Now, this time she'd only lost 5 pounds, and at her size, that's a drop in the bucket. She would have had to have been eating loads more than the prescribed 1,200 calorie diet. This does happen a lot, and I've seen some wild excuses on this show. The prime suspects are usually, it's fluid retention, it's water weight. I don't understand because I've been trying so hard. My body is just built different. But for Rose, she is completely upfront. She readily admits that she's been dipping into the grandkids' candy bucket while everyone else was asleep. While I was glad she admitted her mistake to Dr. Now, this was so crushing for me. I've seen so many people on this show have a strong start like Rose and then fall off completely. I mean, it's understandable. I can't imagine what it's like to go from eating probably 5,000 to 10,000 calories down to 1,200 calories. I'm a short little guy and I've never even lowered my calorie intake that far. Sure, Rose slipped up, but even during that follow-up appointment where she only lost 5 pounds, she clearly already recognized the problem before they even got to the clinic.
I'm kind of worried because I did kind of slip on my diet a little bit. I'm hoping that he won't give me too big of a lashing over it. I deserve one, but I hope he don't give me a big one.
There have been so many times where patients have been like, I've been working so hard and I know I'm going to be successful, and they're completely surprised when they've lost nearly nothing or even gained.
What the heck?
I think that has to come along with some serious doublethink or being in denial, and there is none of that in Rose.
Well, hell, that ain't good. Not even close to good. I'm disappointed in me. I know I let me down. I messed up. I should have been better, way better than that. All I can do now is to come clean with Dr. Now.
And when she fessed up to Dr. Now, she told him the family had already recognized and remedied the problem. Rose's family had already locked the candy away. Where's someone to do that for me? I just wanted Rose to be successful so badly. She and her family have so much love and they do so much for each other. The travel is long and difficult, but no one even complains or even waffles about whether they'll take her to Houston. It comes across as if it was just a given that they would do everything they could to get her health in order. And they even managed to make it to Houston several times with no car trouble. A moment of silence for everyone's bingo cards. Alright, moving on. What that says to me is the family is just as serious as Rose is about her weight loss. They're actively trying to not enable her. And it clearly worked because the next time Rose went to Houston, she lost a large amount of weight again. She got to be one of the patients this season who moved to Houston and got weight loss surgery. And she continued to be successful after the surgery, which is still often a concern on this show. Frankly, you don't get to be 600 pounds without having some kind of disordered relationship with food. And Rose had already recognized that she's an emotional eater. This episode in particular really highlighted for me how important it is to have a healthy support system when you're combating disordered eating or any kind of addiction. It's really hard to say no to someone you love, much less the matriarch of your family, but you have to do it because you love them. I think a lot of people try to show their love through food, especially really unhealthy food that tastes good. As I've gone on my own weight loss journey and started watching these types of shows, it's really made me re-examine that, even in the ways I treat myself. I've only recently recognized that I'm an emotional eater, and it wouldn't be extreme to say I'm emotionally reliant on sugar. If I have a hard day, sometimes the only thing that gets me through is knowing that I have candy at home. And it's something a lot of us have been socialized to do. How common is it for families to soothe their kids with comfort food? I mean, look, we have the phrase comfort food. Most of the people on this show have had really difficult lives and they self-medicate with food. Some people use drugs, some people use alcohol, and some people eat. It's one of the things that really convinced me that food addiction is real. Something I've noticed on my 600-pound life is that a lot of the patients' loved ones will simultaneously enable them and blame them for their weight. And I think a lot of that could be due to the emotional manipulation that can come with addiction. Sure, if your loved one is 600 pounds, immobile, or even bedbound, there's not a lot they can do to you physically if you don't bring them the food they want, but there is a lot of hurtful things they can do to you emotionally. That's something that Dr. Now says to these enablers a lot. So what if they complain about the diet? What are they going to do to you? And that is a true point. But you have to admit, Dr. Now does not have the greatest emotional understanding. He's a very straightforward, no-nonsense guy, and I genuinely believe he really cares about his patients, but bedside manner is not his strong suit. He doesn't seem to acknowledge the fact that it can be traumatic to deal with a family member who is an addict. Words do hurt, and if that family member relies on you to do literally everything for them because of their lack of mobility, not only are you bathing and feeding them, but you're also dealing with their emotional outbursts and manipulation. I can understand why a lot of these families and caretakers just give in. It's a lot easier to care for someone who isn't berating you, even if you recognize that all you're doing is harming them in the long run. That isn't to say these enablers shouldn't be held accountable. No matter what their reasoning is, it is completely unethical to feed somebody like that. I'm just saying there is some nuance, and I feel like that's something that's really glossed over on this show. So as much as I respect Rose's family for loving her enough to stop enabling her, I think Rose's own nature kind of paved the way for them to be able to do that. She's so positive in the face of all her health challenges, and the motivation she has to be with her family and see her grandkids grow up gives her the power to do that.
But now I've got my grandkids, and my grandkids are having kids, and I want to be there for them. And at the rate I'm going, I'm not gonna be.
It's really touching to see. What can I say? It's nice to see a family on this show that's not completely dysfunctional. So that's my ringing endorsement of Rose's episode. She deserved a more light-hearted 1,000-pound sisters treatment, if you ask me. It's episode 5 of season 12, and I really recommend it.
Dr. Now has a lot of knowledge, but there's one thing I don't think he's right about, because he says there's no such thing as magic in this world. But the way he's given me a whole new life, that's pretty magical.